You're listening to All In. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you fulfill the mission of God in your life and around the world. I'm your host, Jeff Roper. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of All In. It's so good to have you with me, and today we get to join in the bon voyage of a missionary couple that you've been tracking with me with. If you've been following this podcast, you will remember back on episode number 36, I interviewed Johnny and Sarah Griffiths as they began a journey of embracing God's call in their life to go to the United Kingdom to plant a church and help us develop a church planting movement that's going to shape that nation. And then we did an update with them in episode 52 to see where they were at in the mid-course, because what I wanted to do is give you a glimpse of what it's like to go through the whole process of, a successful pastor, healthy family, getting intersected by God's call, having that whole world torn apart, launched into the mission field. I wanted to give you guys a front row seat into that, and Jonathan and Sarah have been wonderful in saying, yes, we'll be your guinea pigs on public display. And so we appreciate it. And also one other thing that I did do in this series was in episode 42, I interviewed Sarah's mom and dad to get the parents and grandparent view of what it's like when your kids say yes to this call, this pearl of great price to pursue Jesus Christ. And so today I'm happy to announce that from the time of this recording, which is Friday, September 30th, in just a few days from now, Johnny and Sarah are going to be boarding a flight along with their 3 kids, and they are going to be relocating to the United Kingdom. So welcome with me to the podcast, Jonathan and Sarah Griffiths. Hey guys, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you again, Jeff.
So tell everybody when the big day is.
We depart on Tuesday, October 4th, and we'll be landing on October 5th in the UK, which is my sister's birthday. So we are a birthday present.
What a
Slightly
birthday
statistical, but true.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, we planned this, when I was talking with Elizabeth, the podcast producer, we've got this scheduled to actually publish live on the day you guys depart. So it will go live on October 4th. And so as it hits the internet, you guys will be hitting the friendly skies. So you're probably not flying the friendly skies. You're probably flying British Air, correct? The friendly skies is United. I don't mean that as that British Air is not friendly. I love British Airlines. I'm not crazy about Heathrow, but I love British Air. They're a great airline.
Yep. Okay. Well, hopefully we will have the same experience.
Yeah. So tell me about the process. How's it gone? What's been the experience? What's it been like for you guys? And maybe even before you do that, give us a recap for those who haven't been following the story. Give us a basic Reader's Digest version of your story that's led you up to this moment.
Sure. So it was a couple of years ago. It's actually coming up onto the 2-year anniversary. When I'd made the transition from being in the marketplace for my primary income. I was working in IT and pastoring the church. I'd been lead pastor for 2 years by that point. And we'd made the transition out in September of 2014 to being just focused on ministry in the church. It was a leap of faith to that. And I think it was, within a month of that when we thought, hey, now we get to do this thing with all of our strength, that, as you said, Jesus interrupted, he intersected with our, what we thought was the plan. When I met with you, Jeff, at the Northwest District Conference, which was in Spokane that year. And that began the process of a lot of soul searching, prayer, and trying to discern, is God really calling us, not only at some point, but at this point in our lives, to embrace a transition from the local pastorate in Nampa, Idaho, to the mission field, and not only that, back to my homeland. And so that took a few months of prayer, of seeking counsel. But when we came to the conference in Anaheim which was in 2015, and met with you and with Sareka, the national leader of Foursquare GB. Kind of, we reached the firm decision together that yes, this was something to pursue. Let's see if the Lord's in it by submitting to the FMI process. End of summer 2015, we announced to Cornerstone Worship Center in Nampa, Idaho, that we would be entering into the missions preparation and resigning the church at the end of the year. And then as of January 1st of 2016, we have been full-time engaged in the fundraising process, building our team for prayer and financial support, doing the necessary trainings with Foursquare Missions, and getting ready to transition. And it's all kind of rocketed past. And so now we're ready to deploy and probably start figuring out on the ground what it really looks like to do this. I mean, we have our ideas, but Jesus is going to show up and show us. So
yeah. Now you gave us the sanitized version. I prefer the more the earthy version of that whole process. It was so funny.
You mean like the snot and the tears and all?
The snot, the tears, and the arguing. No.
The part where we didn't like you very much. Yeah,
yes,
that part.
You know the. Now, Johnny, you gave him a very sanctified story about when you and I talked in Spokane 2 years ago.
You said be brief.
Yes, but honest, not sanitized. What? You remember your reaction when we first talked about it?
Yeah, I told you to go away and leave me alone. 3 times.
Yes.
Thrice I said to thee.
Yes, I sayest thou unto thee. You were just about ready to... I remember you telling me, no, dude, I'm not doing it. I'm not interested. I don't want anything. Get away from me. Mm-hmm. And just about stiff-armed me. And
yeah, I think it was, no, that's not going to happen. No way. It was something like that.
Something like that, in very firm... classic British firmness. And then the funniest thing was about 3 weeks later, if I recall, I get basically a 1-sentence email from you that said, dude, we need to talk. And how did that happen?
Yeah, I didn't know who was listening in on your corporate email, so let's just keep this under the radar for now.
Yeah, exactly. But me and the NSA, that was about it.
Yeah, they've probably been in for a treat over the last couple of years for us. Like, what is this?
Now, remind us, those who haven't, and update those who haven't heard that part of the story. How did you go from that immediate, no, this is not on the agenda, to, man, we got to talk about this. We need to find out if this is really from God.
Yeah, it more started out with Sarah at that point, I think.
Yeah, well, initially I was not at that conference, but Jonathan came home and he mentioned that amongst a string of other things. And it would not leave my head. And so we both spent a couple of weeks in silence about this issue, but both processing and thinking about it. And when it came out that we'd both been thinking about this, we said, oh gosh, I guess we have to pray now. And so, yeah, really, I mean, the first 8 or 9 months of this whole process was just a process of prayer and, talking with you, Jeff, and talking with Sareka, Huagale, and just processing and why and what, and we watched documentaries about London and did things like that just really connected our heart to the city. And it wasn't just you see some films about somewhere and you pray for a place and you like that place. Mm-hmm. The Lord made a heart connection for us, and at the beginning, our desire to go was at a 0. Mm-hmm. We just went to that place in the Psalms where it says, give us the desires of your heart, and ultimately that is the Lord Himself. Mm-hmm. That it's His will, His desires for us. And He did that. He stirred up in us the desire to go, a renewed, increased love for British people and for all the different kinds of people that we ended up looking and researching that are in London. And so it became just very evident that it was God that was doing this, not just some crazy FMI person.
But at the same time as there was this ongoing, we had so much prophetic confirmation along the way. I mean, it's astounding. And I think I've said before on one of the other episodes, even so, that's not sufficient. You need those who are in authority in your life to see the same vision and affirm it before you go in off the deep end on things. I mean, that should be visible to them as well. But even with all of that, I mean, I have moments sitting in the sanctuary at Cornerstone just weeping. I reached out to a pastor friend because the tension in my soul over what at the time were twin callings, the desire for the city here to experience revival, the love of Jesus, to see the gospel flourish, to see the church strengthened, and then this calling to go, and that broke my heart. There's no other way around that. There was weeping and sorrow and stress in my body over it because I love a place and I love a people. God was giving me a love for another place and people simultaneously, and that transition process, that metamorphosis kind of thing that's going on, it's just kind of messy.
Yeah. What's that been like for both of you?
Delayed for me, I suppose. I mean, I went through the actual physical transition in December, and I must have just managed to affirm every single British stereotype that there's been about being, stiff upper lip and carry on regardless, everything's fine, and pip pip, and once more into the breach and whatever. And then several months later, sitting in the sanctuary on a Wednesday night in Pomona at Ascending Church. We were down in California for a few weeks. And I just started weeping. I just burst into tears during worship because I was missing children. They were back here with Sarah's parents. And I was missing Cornerstone because it's somewhere that we belong. We're known and we know people, and we hadn't yet really gotten to know people in California, which, praise God, we do now. But at the time, I felt isolated and disconnected, and I was just telling God, I miss my kids and I miss my church, and just heard the Lord say, "So do I. That's why you have to go." And it connected my sorrow to the heart and mission of God in a way that redeemed my sorrow. It didn't deny it or minimize it or push it to the side. It's like God said, I want you to feel this as deeply as you can because it's what I feel for this mission where I'm sending you. I miss my kids and I miss my church. And it's just been so important to go through honestly and transparently the emotional side of this and recognize our emotions don't lead us. They're not in charge of us. They're also given of God and can be very reflective of His own heart if we actually process them with Him.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. What about you, Sarah?
I think, oh gosh, I don't even know. Really, it has been the most intense emotionally and physically season of our life, probably the last year or so. And there have been times where I just was like, God, I don't want to give up anymore. Like, okay, I gave up my house and I, gave up our own space. I had to give up making our own meals as we're on the road, and I have a lot of dietary restrictions and trying to work around that. And you just get to this point where it's like, I can't give up anymore. Like I feel like I have nothing left to give, and yet still more is asked of me. And where that could sound, if we're not grounded in the Lord and around other people that will speak truth to us in those moments, it would be easier to walk away. But thankfully, I am grounded in the Word and around other people that will speak truth to me in those moments where, you're just done, and I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go home. I don't have a home to go to, and the lie is God's taken these things from you. But that was not the truth. The truth was everything that we had and we no longer have, we gave up, and we did willingly. And yes, He called us to it, but He didn't force our hand to it. We gave these things up because we love Him. But at the same time, to read the words where Jesus says, everyone who gives up, house and family, sisters, brothers, all these things, I will give him more in this age and the age to come. There is that point where you've given it all up and you don't have the more yet. And just to be out of our community and away from people that know us and love us, and I think for me especially, traveling around and doing our support raising was such a hard time and such a good time. It's like, I don't know that it's something you can explain to someone who's not been through it. But in those times where we've given it up and we haven't yet received, and we still haven't yet received, we have to cling to the Lord's words and believe that what He said is true, and that, who knows what He means? But to believe that what He's saying in essence is, I have something way better for you. Give up this little thing. I have something so much better for you. And we've just had to really fight in a lot of ways to believe that, because our emotions and our physical tiredness and everything else is saying that that's not true. And
added to that, there's things, even as we've been giving all this stuff up, in this process, there's things we've gained that we wouldn't have gotten any other way. Relationships that we've been gifted. Particularly I'm thinking of our coach and his wife, for the process of building our team and being on the road. FMI assigns a coach to you, and we were just, man, we were blessed. We are blessed.
Who's your coach?
Paul Harmon.
Oh yeah, Paul's great.
Huntington Beach, Hope Chapel. And so every week he has just been a cheerleader, a man who prays over us, a man who speaks the scriptures over us. And even as the fundraiser, which, this is insane, right? It was about 8 months, and our support raising was complete for this stage. And then we're just minds blown. But he is remaining in contact with us and just being a mentor and a father figure in our lives. And we wouldn't have that in this way if we hadn't gone through all of this loss and this giving up.
Yeah. It's been so worth it.
Yeah. What would you say have been some of the more painful or more difficult parts, the bumps along the ways that maybe you didn't anticipate, or that just kind of caught you like a left hook out of nowhere?
I think for me, traveling around, when we've been traveling and speaking at churches and sharing our story and things, it's been really fun in a lot of ways, even though it was tiring and emotional in other ways. It's been really fun, but for me, I got really tired of talking about us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you have a relationship with people that's ongoing, that's more than just, we're here for a weekend or a week and we're going to spend some time together. We did have times with people where it became more relational, but it wasn't always that way. And so I just grew weary of speaking about us. I was like, would somebody just tell me about them for a little bit, because I'm just kind of tired of that.
Yeah.
What about you, Johnny?
I think I was a little surprised by how much of my identity was connected to my daily routines of work.
Yeah.
And how the loss of routine kind of put me into a bit of a spin at times. Or not kind of put me into a bit. That sounds like it wasn't too bad. Completely threw me off.
Yeah, I think we both.
Physically, spiritually, emotionally, just a bit of a mess at times. But I was running with a buddy this morning. We were talking about this and how as you're growing as a disciple, having certain things in place that really help, external systems that you have that help you kind of grow and mature and stay connected and things. Going into missions requires that you at least in terms of pioneering or initiating something, you're going to go somewhere where you don't have an immediate physical support network around you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like our floaties were taken off and we've been thrown in a training pool so that we can learn that we can swim in order to go out into the ocean confidently to take people to the rescue boat, that by removing the external factors that helped with living life and flourishing and making it about building up the internal, the new man in us, that this season has provided a window into that, both to see where we need to depend more on Jesus and where we secretly been depending on our own clever systems or whatever,
mm-hmm.
But also having that confidence that, he has done remarkable work in me, and we are equipped and filled and ready to go and do this work. That I think that's a really important part of the process, and one that I really didn't like in the midst of it. So
yeah.
I'm on the other side of it now.
Right. It's like any kind of strength or stretching process. Well, you're a runner, so you'll get this.
Mm-hmm.
Where that first time you go out running, where you can like barely make it a block before you have to walk and you can't breathe. But eventually, eventually that becomes easy. But in God's goodness, He keeps pushing us a little farther so that we don't get to just get to that place where it's like, okay, I can run 2 blocks and it's easy and I'm just going to do that the rest of my life. No, in His goodness, He keeps pushing us. And I think for us, this has been a very intense season of strengthening and stretching and preparing us and getting us out of our comfort zone and away from our regular routines and, safety and good things, really good things, but things that we will not have when we first move. And that it's like Johnny was saying, our strength in the Lord and our own faith needed to be built up, because initially we're gonna be on our own a little bit more, and we're so thankful for the people that are already there in England, the Foursquare Great Britain people and the leaders, and excited to get to know people more.
Yeah.
But we are going to be in a city where we won't know anyone initially, and the Lord's had to do that stretching and strengthening and preparing us, and it's been very painful and very uncomfortable at times. And I just know that this is not the end of it, that it's not coasting time. It's going to be continuing in that. But we can look back and see, okay, I started with a block and now I can run, 3 miles, and the Lord's going to continue that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I think also on the left hooks, kind of where were the painful moments. We have been so close to everything that's gone on in the process, and people who are in our daily lives have been close to it too, so that I think it's easy for those people and for ourselves to see God's calling, this is happening, it's exciting, there's provision, let's go. But people who aren't as intimate with the details of how things have happened and have been serving for long enough to know that sometimes people have great ideas, but they're not the Lord's ideas. I think that the times where people have been hesitant to enter into the same enthusiasm we have, it can feel like someone's raining on your parade and telling you that, yeah, that's nice. And at the time, that's emotionally difficult to process. But you come through all of that and you recognize how many people have said, Yahoo, we're going to go do this thing. And it doesn't end up that way. And so other people's caution can feel stinging in the moment because you're raw and you're sensitive to stuff and you're risking things, and it's really nice when someone puts their arm around you and says, yeah, come on, let's do this. And someone says, okay, we'll see. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
What do you mean we'll see?
Yeah.
But having perspective now to see, it's not mean, it's not unkindness, it's just having been around the block and seen things. Some people just wait. They wait and see how it pans out. Yeah. And honestly, we got through the fundraising thing. God provided. We're on our way. But gosh, we actually still have the work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this has been in part your training. Continuing with Sarah's running analogy. It's like right now I'm in training for my next marathon, and I just right before this podcast, I did my 8-mile run, and it's been over the summer I haven't been running like I really typically do, and so normally an 8-mile run is no big deal, but today I'm feeling it, but I know I've got to keep working up to something even greater.
Right.
And this is preparation, and you're learning in a safe environment how to deal with dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
And my experience as working with missionaries, in a number of different contexts, it seems to be the biggest issue that all of us face is that loss of community. Yeah. The money is not as, God provides, financially for us. He blesses us, and it's amazing. It is humbling to see how people respond, but they can't send the community with you. They might be able to pray for you from a distance. They might be able to send finances to support you, but when you go on mission work, you lose your community until you've created a new one.
Right.
You're not making a lateral move, and that's always a hard thing. I know when I stopped being a pastor and went full time into missions, I was thoroughly surprised. That was probably the most shocking part of it. Is I lost the community. I don't even have people that I can meet with on a weekly basis to pray together because of traveling constantly and the lifestyle that we live. And So that's going to be important that you maintain that, and I think with your supporters and your key people in your life, that though they may not live next to you, having that's going to be critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, the whole, building up a support team, I mean, yeah, we need the Lord to provide through people, and that's, how He has done that for us. But we've realized that it's way more than just the financial provision, and we just are so honored and blessed and excited by all the people that have joined our team.
Yeah.
And we pray for our team members, I guess. I don't know what else to call them.
Yeah.
For our supporters, we pray for them monthly at the moment, and just, every day it's just such a joy. We see the names on our prayer list, and we're just so thankful and amazing. It's absolutely the Lord's favor and the Lord that's connected us with such amazing people, and just from those people that you meet one time, after a service somewhere, to others that we've, had various meals together, and it's just really exciting.
That's cool. Now, you guys are deploying on October the 4th, and what do you think your first few weeks are going to be like when you get there? Kind of what's your running path?
Well, the first 2 weeks, we haven't seen my mum and dad and my sister and her kids for very nearly 3 years now. And so we're going to spend the first couple of weeks with them, partly because, just going through the transition of country and stuff, it'll ease things for us and the kids.
Yeah.
If it's just with family in a city that we do actually know in some degree. I do very well because it's the same place I grew up, And
that city is what?
Redditch.
Okay.
Redditch. It's just south of Birmingham. So we'll be there for a couple of weeks minimum. And during that time, our two big tasks are to get a car and to start looking for and applying for a rental property. We've been spying out the land with the power of the internet. And there's a couple of properties that we think are, potential ones. But until we go and pray in the city and actually see them, we can't, we're not going to pull the trigger on something. But getting a car and getting a home, and getting a guitar amp for me, because I have to. Of course. Right, it's important. The things that matter, right, Jeff?
Yes. Well, hey, the Brits make some awesome guitar amps.
They do.
Marshalls and Laney's and a few other brands out there that are,
I know.
That British sound. They're kind of like the old classic British motorcycles.
Yeah. So, fish and chips and rock and roll. Right? Yeah. That's the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that we have the opportunity to kind of be cared for a little bit. I mean, I just can't. It must be so different for people that go to a country where they don't know anyone. Mm-hmm. But we definitely feel like, okay, the Lord, He's giving us this opportunity to spend time with family, and also to allow them to help us by, putting us up for a bit and helping us go look for a car and that kind of thing. We're just super thankful for them.
Yeah, I think the fundraising stuff was pretty much already wrapped up, in all honesty, by the start of the summer, and we thought Sarah's visa would be an easy process. That was applied for mid-July, and it was only 10 days ago that we actually got a response, which wasn't the response we wanted, but we still get to go, and there are good pathways that we can take, so that's all fine. But the extra waiting, I think, has slowed me down enough so that when we go and we take a couple of weeks just to catch up with family and to find our bearings, I'm not going to feel like I'm being a slacker or not doing what I should be doing. I think especially when you're partner funded, there's this pressure that you can sometimes give way to look busy.
Yeah.
And we weren't called to be busy. We were called to be the aroma of Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that, we normally try to coach our missionaries on when they are first deployed, because everybody feels that pressure. You got to go out and, show that you're worth supporting, because if you can't keep people entertained with your photographs and your stories, then they might quit supporting you. Yet the critical issue is getting onto the ground, learning the culture, hearing the Spirit of God, letting God mug you from your dreams, because we all go with these opinions and views. It's going to be like this, this, and this, and then you get on the ground and you find out, oh, this is actually what God's doing, and letting the Lord work that out in you over a process. And He does that with a crock pot. He doesn't do it with a microwave. He's a slow when it comes to cooking that vision inside of us. And we like to, I don't know if it's more of an American trait or if it's just a human trait. We like to hit the ground running, and and so it's good to hear that you guys are, first year, that's acclimation. Even though for Johnny, for you it's returning to your homeland, but you've been gone a long time. You've been Americanized in some areas, and and both of you having to reacclimate and find your bearings in that reality and stuff. So that's good. You're positioned well for that. Now, normally I ask all of our guests if we had a time machine and I could take you back to your 25-year-old self, what advice would you give? Well, I've already asked you that question on a previous episode, so I won't ask you that, but I will ask you, if I had a time machine and I could take you back 2 years to when this process first started, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say, don't punch Jeff Roper when he says to embrace the process.
We didn't actually punch him.
Because he was conveniently in another room.
Yeah, he only ever said it on the phone. Strange.
I knew better.
But, I mean, really, that is true. And, how much energy and time have we wasted? Do we waste as children of God in worrying about things? And I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to embrace the process, but yeah, that's been something that's helpful. The Lord really is Lord.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Johnny?
I'm having a good think on that question. I think I'd probably tell myself not to be anxious for Jesus' church in Nampa. I mean, I knew it. I said it. I vocalized my trust and faith in Him, but there was still pockets of anxiety in me. And another part of this waiting process is allowing us to see His goodness at work through Pastor Keith and the new leadership going on at Cornerstone. It's just recognizing Jesus loves His church far more than I do.
Yeah.
And if He calls His shepherds out from a position into something else, it really won't be to the detriment of His church, because He loves His bride. So that for sure. And I'd probably tell myself to have a bit more fun in the beginning stage of the process. It was really serious for a long time there.
Yeah.
And it is serious. God's calling on your life and discernment is serious. But like through the fundraising process, I think people go into that feeling like, I got to sit down, I got to really be all very business minded and move. Mm-hmm. No, go have fun and enjoy people and bless them. And I think thankfully I probably learned that lesson before we hit the fundraising portion, and we did really enjoy people and being with people. But through that discernment process, I could have maybe staved off some of the human anxiousness over it by walking in the Spirit's joy more.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How can people be praying for you?
in tongues or in their heart language. It's cool either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be praying, just as we transition, for our children and on a very practical level, just, jet lag and adjusting to a different place. And Jonathan and I both he grew up in England and I've lived there before, but neither of us have really run a household there or anything like that. So just for a lot of grace in the practical things and we are willing to laugh at ourselves, but, it just takes a lot of humility and willing to ask other people things. And, but yeah, that we would enjoy that process of moving and finding our bearings, that it wouldn't be a stress and a worry for us.
Yeah.
That's great. It's kind of like when you relocate to a different country, you feel like you have to go through domestic therapy, where you're going. It's like physical therapy. It's like, okay, I know before the accident I knew how to walk. Why do I need therapy to help me do that? I know how to do this. Why am I having? Right. You get on the ground. It's like, okay, I don't even know how to get the garbage collected anymore.
Right.
How do I get a telephone? How do I get internet? All of these things that just how to do in your homeland, but you move to a different place, and you go through this process of therapy, going, okay, this is how you walk here, and this is how you hold the spoon, and
and there's a difference between a 21-year-old asking, how do I pay council tax, and someone who's turning 35, is married, has 3 kids.
Yeah.
And who should know in the minds of the people that you're asking, because aren't you British, or at least mostly somewhat, part British? You sound weird, but you speak English. Why don't you know?
Yeah.
And so there's an added humility. I think when you go back to your homeland, but with the knowledge that a sojourner would have, you're like, I kind of get it, but I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll keep praying for you guys as you go through this. How can people connect with you?
We have a blog and website at allingriffs.com. That
all one
website
word?
Sorry?
All one word?
Yeah, allingriffs, Griffs, allingriffs.com. The website used to be very much blog-centric, with a lot of information about where we'd be traveling and the fundraising process. Because of moving to the field now, we've kind of changed the look and feel and tone of it to be more engaging to those we might be reaching. But it still has a blog on there. It has a contact form. If people wanted to email us, they can. Or our emails are johnny@allingriffs.com and sarah@allingriffs.com. So
great. We'll be sure to include links to that in the show notes. Well, Johnny and Sarah, we are so thrilled to see what God has done. He's been faithful. We're thrilled, and even just the miracle of you being able to raise your support in the amount of time that you've been able to do it. I've known people that's taken them 4 years to do to raise support, and to see God's blessings on your life like this and the grace that's been there. It's been exciting. And we're going to be thrilled to have you joining us in Europe on the team to reach that new dark continent.
thank you.
Anything you guys would like to share with our listeners before we go?
Rest.
Good.
For real. Even if you think you have an intense job ahead of you and we're just going to push through, rest day this week and next week, we must rest in the Lord.
Amen. Good advice.
Yeah, we kind of didn't keep that very well at first in the traveling and fundraising process, and thankfully the Lord gave us correction in that.
Yeah,
that's good. That's some good advice. Well, folks, reach out to Johnny and Sarah in your prayers, and reach out to them on their website. Connect with them. And if God stirs your heart, partner with them. They're going to these are quality people well worth you connecting with. Johnny and Sarah, God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us today. Well, we're done now. Thanks for listening. This is Jeff Roper reminding you that the mission of God is too grand for mediocrity or average living. You were created for a purpose, and that purpose is found in the mission of God. It's your life. Now go live it.